How did you start assessing what needed to be done to improve the sales?
Listening to phone calls. I pretty much have every call, PTSD calls in my brain, and just listen to your calls, even from customer service on down, and then start fixing it from there. Because if you're selling internally over the phone, that's what matters. They're not seeing anyone. This is their first experience, and it needs to be consistent. So we started first with the script. It changed a lot. It changed as I continued to listen to calls, and then it kind of got finalized mid-year. And I used a lot of psychology around it, because you do have to make people feel a certain way. That's all they're going to remember, is how you make them feel, while also creating value. Very hard to do, especially if you're selling like $2,000 tickets, or, it's not just an easy over the phone process when it's expensive sometimes. So the script was the first thing we had to nail down and get going.
And what were you looking for when you were listening to those calls?
Just the customer experience, how they felt and how they were responding to what the customer service or sales rep was saying, or if they were just talking too much. If you're talking too much over the person on the phone, they're probably not listening. They're not catching on to things. I would also catch certain sales reps not really listening to what the person was saying. So you can help them if you're like overpowering, going straight to the script, but you really didn't acknowledge, confirm, and give them like, hey, I understand your solution. Then go into, what we can do for you. Sometimes they just get on the phone and like, yeah, I got something for you, without asking questions or getting into the nitty gritty to make them feel like, hey, they know my problem. They heard me. They're going to give me the right thing. If you just kind of like walk through that whole process without giving it the attention it deserves, you're not going to sell it.
Got it. Okay. And did you start listening to the calls with any kind of training or framework? Like, were you going in any way kind of educated about what a sales call should sound like, so that you had something to compare it to? Or were you just going in with an intuition about what a sales call should sound like, based on what you think the customer should be feeling and the way that should be communicated?
So I had experience with outside sales, a little bit of inside for standard services in the industry, but overall, LaJaunie's was the first company that I came to that sold the way they sell their services, which is just really easy and convenient for consumers. Most of the time, I just go into it as, we're all consumers, we're all people. So if I was on the phone, how would I want to be handled? And then also listening to competitors. You can call every pest control company within 500 miles of you and get how they handle you on the phone. And my mind is just blown away about how they're treating people, or how they're not taking it like it is super important, that initial call. So really calling around and seeing how they internally made me feel as a consumer myself, and be like, okay, we're never doing that. We have to flip it completely different, and then be consistent with it. Every call deserves the same thing.